Hey guys, just a note, this week we do not have our full sound production. Nevertheless, here is your audio version of this week's wrap. In this week's edition, we're looking at a great mix of big moves in the public space through to important cultural moments like Squid Game and Adele's latest album, plus why it matters. Plus, the simple steps you should be doing now with just 3 weeks to go until local government elections. So, let's dive into your weekly update of empowering and easy-to-understand news brought to you by myself, Verashni Pillay, and the Explained Akosa team. First up, our take, Squid Game and global capitalism. Have you watched Squid Game yet? If not, someone you know definitely has. Netflix introduced the South Korean smash hit series in mid-September and audiences across the world are gripped. It has attracted over 110 million views on Netflix, overtaking even the breakout hit that was Bridgerton, according to Bloomberg. Now, what is the show about? It's a dystopian fictional series about debt-laden Koreans who play a deadly version of a childhood game to win a massive cash prize. If they fail during the game, they die. But the series is not just about a game or about squids. It's about capitalism and commodification as we experience it in our modern world. As The Economist notes, the brutality of the competition is also rung true for ordinary South Koreans struggling with unaffordable housing and a sluggish labor market. Hilariously, though, actual South Koreans are a bit mystified by the show's popularity, saying they found it rather cliched. They probably have high standards. After all, similar themes were explored in Parasite, the incredible South Korean film that was named Best Picture at the 2020 Oscars, becoming the first non-English language film to take the top prize. Now, both Parasite and Squid Game are examples of popular culture sparking important conversations in the world, and in their case, bringing discussions about the harmful effects of predatory capitalism, especially against the backdrop of global crises like climate change and COVID-19, into the mainstream. So here's hoping that these discussions might lead us to all doing more than just settling down for another Netflix binge. Instead, let's recommit to building a kinder, more sustainable world in the coming years. On to the big story. Your vote can make a change. In a little more than 3 weeks' time, on the 1st of November, South Africans will head to the polls to select their local and municipal leaders. Now, many of you probably have not thought about it yet. We know there's so much else going on. And if you have, you may be feeling completely disillusioned. So on the day, you'll make a random choice on the ballot or not bother going to vote at all. But the great thing about the upcoming local government elections is that things really are changing. In terms of power, we're no longer a country in which one party is guaranteed a win in every city. The last local government elections in 2016 dramatically upset the status quo. We're now in an era of coalition governments and enormous power for small parties that manage to get the swing vote in councils, setting them up as kingmakers. Plus, many have hailed the introduction of independent candidates due to a landmark 2020 court ruling as a game changer. Now, the official opposition, the DA, keeps pushing the idea that the vote for a small party or an independent candidate is a wasted vote. Now, they're doing this naturally because it helps their vote. They don't want to lose votes to independents or other smaller parties. But that idea is not true. That idea of splitting the vote or the opposition, it's not true. Little is certain for the governing ANC or the DA in municipalities and wards across the country, and slim margins make a big difference. Your vote really can change things. So, what should you be doing in the run-up to the 1st of November? Instead of trying to keep up with the roller coaster of election-related news about one politician's gaffe after the other or their endless grandstanding, turn your hand to some research. Read manifestos, talk to local councillors, and think about what's important to you. Check out the fantastic site municipalmoney.gov.za to see how your municipality or metro has spent your taxes under different administrations. It's very easy to understand. It's got simple graphs and color-coded with red and green. So type in your location and take it from there. Now, we'll do a roundup in the next few weeks of what to know about each party. Until then, take heart and have hope. It's time to get excited about elections again. On to your briefs, and for your first story, some DA-related election news. Tell us how you really feel, Mike. Admit it, you've dreamed of writing a no-holds-barred, entirely undiplomatic resignation letter. But adulthood and social conventions being what they are, most of us fall back on polite platitudes even when we're leaving a terrible work situation. Now, Mike Waters, a former DA MP and longtime member of the party, apparently has no such qualms. Waters quit as the DA's party campaign manager in Ekurhuleni on Gauteng's East Rand recently because he disapproved of the higher-ups' decision to take down those controversial election posters in Phoenix that we told you about last week. But saying that he disapproved is putting it mildly, as extracts from his resignation letter in Business Day reveal. As he said, "I cannot in good conscience fight for votes for a party that crumbles in the face of manufactured hysteria about it stating the truth." The truth in this case was calling people in Phoenix who meted out vigilante justice heroes. Not so much. He called the party's leadership spineless and weak. The letter is the real deal, in case you're wondering. It's not made up. Asked by Business Day to confirm its authenticity, Waters said, "I'm deeply concerned that you have a copy of my resignation letter, as I only emailed it to 5 people." Now, Waters will stay on as a, quote, vocal, unquote, party member, he wrote, but only for as long as I and others muscular liberals can raise our voices above the bleating of the sanctimonious vocarati, undermining the direction of the party. Wow. Muscular liberal sounds uncomfortably like it might be a search term on certain pornographic websites. Also, the DA's continued dismissal of anyone who opposes it as woke is an eye-rolling misunderstanding of the term. But hey, at least Waters got to live out any disgruntled employee's dreams, we guess. Moving on to some sports news, Bafana gives us reason to hope. Bafana supporters are experiencing an unfamiliar feeling this week, hope. This after the men's senior national team beat Ethiopia in 2 World Cup qualifiers on the trot. The first came on Saturday at Ethiopia's Bahir Dar Stadium. Bafana won by 3 goals to 1. The second was on Tuesday at FNB Stadium in Joburg, and only one goal, an own goal by Ethiopia, separated the teams. It was enough to take South Africa to the top of their group in the African qualifying rounds for the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. New coach Hugo Broos will likely be cautiously optimistic after the wins, as well as other solid recent performances. But it is a big change. It's too early to suggest that the Belgian coach might be just what the doctor ordered for a team that's perpetually failed to impress in recent years. Still, it's good to see Bafana putting some wins behind their name. Now, the Joburg game may not have been very exciting on the pitch, not a particularly beautiful game to watch, but it was wonderful to see some fans back in the stadium. 2,000 people were permitted to attend in person as long as they presented proof that they'd been vaccinated against COVID-19. It's another step towards normality in a world where COVID will unfortunately remain a reality for some time. Talking about stadiums, have you seen the memes reacting to the ridiculous 15 million rand sports facility officials opened in Lessiton Village recently in the Eastern Cape? Officials from Enoch Mgijama local municipality in the Eastern Cape posted images of the completed stadium in a self-congratulatory Facebook post earlier this month. It made headlines and created a buzz on social media, given how completely shoddy the alleged finished product, which officials boasted cost 15 million rand, looked. Even the ribbon used for the ribbon cutting was barrier tape, and the rest was just barren grass and a few lonely stadium bleachers. It wasn't long before the meme started. Tweets have posted pics of people standing on a rickety log over a trickling stream with farcical captions like, "The Eastern Cape's new 20 million rand bridge." Turns out a picture is worth more than 1,000 words, or 50 million rand. The photos caught various authorities' attention. The Hawks are probing the matter, and the DA's Helen Ziller even visited the spot. The Eastern Cape government has asked the municipality for an explanation. We'll be watching for some real accountability. On to some adulting. Exam season is around the corner for school and university students, and with the mounting stress and pressure, especially given the disruptions over the past 2 years, we need to give the kids as much support as we can. If you're a parent or a caregiver, pay extra attention to your child's mental health and habits at this time. Actively ensure that while they are studying, they are taking care of themselves by eating, sleeping, and stretching out every few hours. Don't pressure your child into acing every exam. Some have better skills than others. And when the stress gets too much, as it will, take a moment to understand their feelings and assure them that it will be okay. Sometimes that's all they really need to hear. To those writing and to you cheering them on, you can do it. On to some good motoring news. Finally, some relief when it comes to renewing our car license discs. The Road Traffic Management Corporation, together with FNB, launched a payment gateway on the NATIS platform so that motorists can apply for car license disc renewals online. This means no more long queues and penalties for late renewals, thank goodness. It's also much safer in the era of COVID-19. Now, to do this, you must register by visiting the NATIS website. It's online.natis.gov.za. That's NATIS. You simply select province, click register, and then view motor renewals and follow the prompts. You can either have the disc couriered to you or printed at a nearby driver's license testing center. What could be easier, thankfully? Moving on to your accountability monitor, another National Police Commissioner to face the music. Now, the police commissioner plays an important role in South Africa. If our police minister is akin to the chairman of the board at a company, the police commissioner is the CEO. They run the actual ship. So it's a real problem that the post has long been marked by corruption, infighting and plain incompetence. Several police commissioners have been suspended for various reasons, from Jackie Selebi to Becky Cele, now the Minister of Police, and Ria Piecha, who was suspended for her disastrous handling of the Marikana massacre. So acting commissioners filled the role temporarily after Ria Piecha left, until Kehla Sithole was appointed in 2017 by President Jacob Zuma. And this was met with cautious optimism. Sithole was their first career cop to be appointed as permanent National Police Commissioner since 1995 under Nelson Mandela. And this was good news. We desperately need someone who understands the service to reform it. But Sithole has instead proven to be just as controversial as his predecessors. So what has he done? It's a bit complicated to explain, but it has to do with the improper purchase of spying devices, which were really a foil for laundering tens of millions of rands to buy votes at the 2017 ANC conference, where Ramaphosa narrowly beat out Zuma's faction. Look, it's like the plot of a bad heist movie, so we won't get into all the details, but essentially he's been embroiled in a 2-year wrangle over this whole thing, which came to an end when the Supreme Court of Appeal ruled against Sithole on the 30th of June. What you need to know now is that Ramaphosa has now set up an inquiry into Sithole's fitness to hold office. We know another inquiry. And Sithole has been served with a notice of intention to suspend him. Details about who is sitting on the panel are yet to be announced, but expect to hear more about this in the news in the upcoming months. Now, we're glad accountability mechanisms like the police watchdog, IPID, our courts, and now this inquiry are in place to stop people like Sithole from doing damage. But wow, do we need a good police commissioner already? It's been decades, guys. We'll be watching keenly for the next appointment. On to some entertainment news. Adele is back. One divorce, a few years of mental health issues, and some dramatic weight loss later, our favorite British pop star Adele is back. She's about to release an album that will break and mend our hearts simultaneously. It's what she does, after all. Adele is due to release her newest album, 30, on the 19th of November, 6 years after releasing her last album, 25, both a nod to her age at the time of significant events in her life. Speaking to Vogue, Adele said the album is her way of explaining her divorce to her 9-year-old son and why, as she puts it, she chose to dismantle his life to pursue her own happiness and whether she can ever forgive herself for that. Interestingly, Adele is arriving into a music scene that has changed dramatically since she left. 6 years ago, streaming services like Spotify were only beginning to emerge. Now, making music for audiences across platforms could be challenging for the artist and her team. As the Wall Street Journal notes, listening has become more fragmented than ever. One music industry analyst said that we are now in a post-album era. Music fans churn through music more quickly, and Adele is now up against that. Will 30 be the shared cultural moment we experience with 21 or even 25, with her soulful crooning playing nearly everywhere? This is Adele. We're guessing she'll still make an impact. On to some legal news. Mogoeng, the end of an era and a few eras. Mogoeng's term as Chief Justice ends at midnight on Sunday. That's the official date. Looking back at his term, it's an interesting and mixed bag. When Mogoeng was appointed to the role in 2011, many were alarmed. President Jacob Zuma had overlooked the natural fit for the position, the brilliant and independent Dikgang Moseneke. Would Mogoeng, whose judgments positioned him as a religious traditionalist, be a Zuma lackey? But if Zuma was hoping for an easy ride, he was disappointed. The court under Mogoeng acted as a bulwark against the worst of the state capture project. In 2016, Mogoeng delivered a scathing unanimous judgment against members of the National Assembly about the Nkandla debacle. That was the security updates over 250 million rand to Zuma's private residence. He quickly earned the public's respect as he spoke out about the court's independence, and this was in a phase or an age where attacks against the judiciary's independence became more and more frequent under Zuma. He also made some moves to shore up the court's poor administration, pushing for the office of the Chief Justice and a separate budget from the Department of Justice. It's a pity then that Mogoeng, who rapidly became quite respected even among those who had doubted him, ended his term on a sour note. Recently, his conservative Christian views had a habit of leaking into his public statements, though not his judgments. Nonetheless, these were often inappropriate, from his pro-Israeli comments, which he refused to retract, to his bizarre comment last year praying against any work of the devil that may exist in covert vaccines meant to corrupt DNA. Then there was his abrupt recent departure before his term officially ended. Mogoeng took the long leave owed to him in May after chairing a combative round of Judicial Service Commission interviews that led to litigation and the JSC being compelled to rerun these interviews for judges, as Gay Davis reported on EWN. As we noted previously, the Apex Court has been in something of a crisis and his abrupt departure did not help. Now we're grateful, all in all, that someone worse than Mogoeng did not hold this top spot during the state capture years, but we're disappointed where he muddled his legacy. As the Mail and Guardian's Esme Ferreira writes, those who cheer at his awkward departure are not wrong, but may do well to remember that when all was at stake, he turned out to be the unlikely Chief Justice we never knew we needed. On to your final brief. Uganda recognizes its first trans citizen. Cleopatra Kambuhu, a Ugandan activist who advocates for sexual and gender minorities, has made history as the first transgender person in Uganda to have their new gender recognized by the government, the Star Observer reported. As they said, Kambugu has received her new passport and government-issued photo ID, which identifies her as female. The process of getting official ID, recognizing her as female, was a difficult and intrusive process and is a milestone for the African nation where the LGBTQI community is consistently maligned and marginalized. Now, the news is startling considering that Ugandan authorities have made ongoing attacks on queer people in the country. Several anti-gay bills have been proposed to their parliament and only quashed thanks to the efforts of activists and court action. As Kambugu noted, she has had surgery and can pass as a woman, making her life a little easier now. But what of those who cannot? On that note, that's it from us at The Wrap, an award-winning product of Explain.co.za, simple news summaries for busy people. Remember that The Wrap is sponsored by Explain's agency division. We specialize in content marketing for purpose-driven organizations, often with a pan-African reach. Mail info at Explain.co.za for a quote. Meanwhile, remember to share the love, tell your friends to sign up for the updates at Explain.co.za/subscribe. Till next time, goodbye from the team.